So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need a political change, but we also need the resolve to resist. Hey, thanks for watching our live stream. I'm the host, David Krayden. In the meantime, have a look at some of these clips and take the opportunity, please, to like this broadcast, ring the bell, or subscribe.
And we're stepping up in every way we can because we know that Russia must win this war. That Ukraine must win this war.
But freedom is something you earn every day.
I don't know that the government currently has fiscal anchors.
Your home is your castle. We're calling on the government to introduce and immediately pass the Stand on Guard law.
But we also need to resolve to resist.
It's a shit show, just like mine. That's what she said.
That, of course, was the inimitable Pat King, another Freedom Convoy supporter who was charged, convicted, and sentenced. And he was in the courtroom today with his lawyer. I have to say that. I had a nice chat with Pat. We really had talked much before. So we had a nice chat. He's been through hell and back, of course, with all of this. But when we come back, here's my thoughts, observations, some video footage about what happened today in the Ontario Provincial Courthouse on Elgin Street in Ottawa. And I think it's going to be of some interest to you.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
Your home is your castle. We're calling on the government to introduce and immediately pass the Stand on Guard law.
But we also need to resolve to resist.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Yeah, we'll do it live. Hey, I know. You say, okay, it's not funny anymore, David. Well, got back about 4 o'clock from the sentencing hearing today for Chris Barber and Tamara Lich. And I was trying literally to do about 3-4 things at once today. I managed to get a story written while the judge was delivering her sentencing. And this is a long-winded judge. This is Heather Perkins McVeigh. And she went on and on and on and got there about 10:30. We didn't get a final sentencing for Tamara. First of all, she read Chris's, then she read Tamara. And it was about 1:30, 1:45 by that time. So you never know how these things are going to go. The result, 18 months conditional sentencing for Chris Barber, 12 months house imprisonment, 6 months curfew. But he's got lots of latitude, and we'll see some specifics a little later. With that house imprisonment, he can work, he can travel, he can go out and get essentials. It's not like he's chained to his bed. Tamara Lich, 15.5 months combined house arrest and curfew. Same kind of stipulations, same kind of exemptions. Tamara got less only because the judge said she had spent 74 days in custody already, so she took 2.5 months off an 18-month sentence. Once again, I don't think they should have been there in the first place. I don't think there should have been a trial. I think they should have been settled long before there was a trial. I don't think the trial should have went on for 2 years and 1 month. Literally 2 years and 1 month. I don't think they should have been the longest mischief trial in Canadian history. I don't think they should have gotten anything except conditional discharge. But I understand there must have been tremendous political pressure on this judge. I understand it could have gone a lot worse. I understand a lot of us are hoping and praying that Chris and Tamara would not have to spend a day in jail. And when I talked to Lawrence Greenspan Tamara's lawyer after, and you'll hear him say this, his most cogent and immediate concern was that Tamara not spend another hour in jail, and she won't be. Now, we still don't know if Chris Barber is going to have to surrender his truck, Big Red, to the province of Ontario, who will destroy it. That's called forfeiture. It's bullshit. Excuse my language. But that won't be decided until probably early mid-November at the earliest. This could go on and on. But I want to talk about what this trial meant and what the verdict meant, but most importantly, what the sentencing means, because I'm hearing a lot of people saying, this is a grievous judgment. And to some extent, I agree. This should not have been. It should never have gone this far. But what really happened today? How much do we celebrate? Because when I heard the news that Chris was just, yeah, I know you say just, but that Chris wasn't going to have to go to jail. That the judge said 8 years was ridiculous. In fact, the word she used was unfit. And he was basically going to be allowed to continue to live and work. I said, thank you, God. I said, thank you, because so many people were hoping and praying for a reasonable, if you will, outcome. Now, a lot of people, after this sentencing was read, said this is outrageous because this should never have happened. And don't you dare rejoice that these people aren't going to jail because that should never have been on the table. Well, I'm sorry it was. I mean, some people are saying this is a travesty, but I can tell you this. I sat there for the entire sentencing, just like I sat there for most of the entire trial. From day one in September 2023, yeah, Labor Day. It was the Tuesday after Labor Day, Monday in 2023. It was a beautiful sunny day, like it was yesterday here in Ottawa. Today was overcast and torrential rainfall. I don't know if rainfall. I don't know if that was a sign of what's to come or not. But I can tell you, a lot of people were really feeling happy at the break, because when the judge had left the room and we were left alone with each other, people applauded Chris as he stood up, because we didn't know Tamara's sentence at that point, because the judge divided it with another break. But we all knew Tamara was probably going to get the same or even less, because the judge had, I guess, seemed to favor Tamara a bit when she was talking about the two of them. I always thought she seemed that Tamara was less guilty than Chris, but clearly when push came to shove, she treated them both equally in the end here. But here's what I want to tell you. This was a show trial from day one. Yes, it was. These were political prisoners. The whole idea here was to put opponents of the Liberal regime on trial, to humiliate them, to infuriate them, to impoverish them, and ultimately to defeat them. That didn't work. They're not defeated. And I don't think for a minute that this verdict is going to put the chill in protest that the Carney Liberal government wants it to, or the Doug Ford government. Remember, this trial was initiated by the Crown of Ontario. This was Doug Ford's trial from day one. Doug Ford, who was an ardent champion of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his Emergencies Act. This was Doug Ford's trial from day one. So I don't think this is going to put a chill in protest in the future. If it does, then they've succeeded. But I don't think they have. We're living in a state that is increasingly like the Soviet Union. And these people, Chris Barber and Tamara Lich, were political dissidents that the state was trying to punish because they didn't go along with the state narrative on COVID. on COVID mandates, on the vaccine. Turns out they were damn correct. And I got the jab twice because I really, in the beginning, I really did think it was probably the best thing to do because I had a mother in a nursing home. I had a job in Parliament Hill. I wanted to travel. And I said the government wouldn't lie to me. Not like that. I was in the armed forces. I trusted the government to some degree, even if it was a liberal government. The government wouldn't intentionally try to harm me, would they? Well, turns out they actually do. And this is the frightening thing about this. But we have to celebrate to some degree because they didn't destroy these lives. I worked hard to keep this story and the politics behind it front and center, not only on this channel, but in the US media outlets that I work for. And the international outlets at the time, I worked for the Epoch Times. I used to write columns about this all the time. I wrote several columns about this for Human Events. I wrote many, many stories for the Post Millennial. And a US audience saw that. Millions of people across the border saw that, and they said, what the hell is wrong with Canada? So I think I did my part. Lots of other people did too. Lots of people didn't do their part, and they ignored this story. But we have to find the sunshine of victory, even in the shadow of this authoritarian government. So that's my word of wisdom for you today. And I just want to show you some scenes from this today. Here are. Sorry, that's. We're having some internet problems here. All right. All right, I am going to have to unplug the internet. Bear with me here because we're not getting anything on here. Just bear with me. I will be back momentarily because we had the, my God. What else can go wrong today?
I said thousands, if not tens of thousands, but we received letters of support from hundreds of people. We've received messages. Tamara has received messages. So this was one of those rare cases where I was able to say to the judge, there were some very positive things that happened as a result of this, what was found to be an offense. And the positive is that there are a lot of people who were inspired by Tamara's example, a lot of people who were lifted up and given hope by what she did.
Are you satisfied with the verdict or the sentencing today, sir?
Yes, the main objective was to make sure she didn't spend one more day in jail, and that was achieved. And so yes, in that sense, we are still very seriously considering an appeal of the conviction for mischief, but as far as the sentence goes, we're pleased that she is not going to be spending any more time in jail.
I think there's a double standard with how the truckers are being treated with jailing, prosecution, enormous resources compared to the pro-Hamas protests that blocked meets in Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, and elsewhere. Is there a double standard on the streets?
I think that this case on its own demonstrates the conflict between freedom of expression and peaceful assembly, and as contrasted with some of the other protests that you're referring to, the pro-Palestinian.
Just in case you don't recognize this man, this is Lawrence Greenspan, who is Tamara Lich's attorney. And I spoke to him along with a throng of other reporters immediately after the sentencing.
Palestinian protest. There's definitely a different way that those are being treated as opposed to the way that this peaceful assembly and freedom of expression was treated in this courtroom.
Lawrence, was a balance struck by the judge in this case in terms of freedom of expression, in terms of the right to protest?
No, there was none. And in Canada, constitutionally protected freedom of speech, which encourages peaceful assembly, must prevail. over the rights of property owners, the enjoyment of property. That's not it's not an equal balance, and that's the primary basis that we're considering for an appeal of conviction.
What do you think the post effects will be? I mean, is it you might be happy with the results as of now? What do you
I don't think, by the way, that anybody had their property rights really violated. Not the way the government is violating the property rights of Universal Ostrich Farms right now.
I think it just takes the feeling of free speech going forward. The process, of course, the pre-trial custody.
I'm concerned that going forward, individuals who advocate peaceful assembly, and that's all that Tamara did, was talk about peaceful assembly and encourage people to come to Ottawa to assemble peacefully and lawfully. That's all she did. And if that becomes, and at this point, it remains criminal, it's been found to be the offense of mischief, if that's allowed to stand, then I'm very concerned about the future of freedom of expression in this country.
Lawrence, you are appealing Ms. Lich's conviction?
We're seriously considering an appeal of the conviction for mischief.
What about the impact on the people of Ottawa? The judge also acknowledged that significant impact here on residents of the city.
There was definitely, and that was something that we were prepared to admit right at the beginning of the trial, that there was an impact on the people and businesses in the core of the city of Ottawa. Freedom of expression and peaceful assembly do not come without some price. And in a contest between the two, peaceful assembly, freedom of expression that encourages that, should win every time, because nowhere in the Constitution are the property rights or the enjoyment of property to be found. Freedom of expression and peaceful assembly are fundamental freedoms that are supposed to be protected by the Charter.
Mr. Greenspan, were you surprised by the sentence today? The duration?
Given the range, absolute discharge to 7 years, there's really nothing that could surprise me. What surprised me was that in 45 years of doing this work, I've never been this far apart from the Crown in terms of a sentencing position. The judge made comments about the Crown's sentencing position, and I'll leave you to that.
Has Ms. Lich ever expressed any type of remorse for her role in this, even though she did not advocate for violence, but it resulted in $65 million of police costs?
You heard the portion of the letter that she wrote, and she recognized, as did Mr. Barber, that there were many people in the downtown core and businesses that were affected by the Freedom Convoy. She doesn't deny that. The question of was there remorse for what she did? No. She pled not guilty. She's been found guilty of mischief. We're seriously looking at appealing that finding.
Do you think Tamara actually saved lives by getting these COVID mandates stopped?
She may have.
Certainly
she may have saved lives by her advocacy. She may have. One thing we know is that there were many lives, many people that were inspired by her example, by what she said and how she did it. There were lives that were changed as a result of her standing up on behalf of many thousands of Canadians, perhaps even tens of thousands of Canadians. So were lives saved? I don't know, but it may well have been.
I think that was the most important question I asked of Mr. Greenspan today, which was, did Tamara Lich actually save lives? Of course she did. We know now how dangerous, how toxic, how untested the COVID vaccine was. Now it's my pleasure to welcome back to the Stand on Guard studio, Katie Pasitney. I hope I'm finally pronouncing your last name right, because I've been listening to other broadcasters.
Yes.
And I think I've been mispronouncing your last name. I feel terrible.
No, it's Pasitney. Yeah, you got it. Thanks, David, very much for having me back on.
Well, you're part of this broadcast, and I will be part of your fight for as long as I have to be. So
Thank you.
Before we get into the latest from Universal Ostrich Farms, I just want your thoughts on what transpired today, because I'm hearing it from all sectors. I was standing next to Ezra Levant today at the incredible scrum with Lawrence Greenspan and who else was there? Diane Magus, who of course is Chris Barber's lawyer. She was there. I haven't seen a bigger scrum than this since my days on Parliament Hill, or actually the last time I was at Parliament Hill last spring, I guess. And it was it was incredible. There must have been 35, 40 journalists there around the people coming out of the doors. There were cops everywhere. Well, you know what that's about. In fact, I joke, these are the cops who weren't invited or who weren't sent to Universal Ostrich Farms. They came here today. So it was quite something. But what are your thoughts about the sentencing? And just to recapitulate, and I texted you first with the news, even before I went to my ex post, but 12 months house arrest for Chris Barber plus 6 months curfew, 12 months house arrest for Tamara plus 5.5 months curfew. The judge gave her essentially time off because of the time she'd spent in custody. What are your thoughts?
It was nice to see that, justice kind of prevailed today. I mean, they didn't deserve anything in obviously our eyes and probably our whole country's eyes. They're two heroes and they're warriors. And I was just elated to hear that there was going to be no actual sentencing of jail time. Tamara has dedicated herself to her using her voice and singing also to heal. She's been out here twice and she's brought magic each time with her voice and her songs and just bringing some light to what we've all been going through here. And anyways, our hearts have been with them this whole time. And I believe that it happened. It was just nice to see that there was justice today and in the sentencing. Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel the same way because I heard a lot of people say, we shouldn't be celebrating at all. They didn't deserve to be there. They shouldn't have been there. I said, they shouldn't have been. But
they shouldn't have been there.
But these are people who have been treated like Soviet dissidents, and they could have been sent away for 8 years. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful, and I'm thankful that I think I made a difference over the last 3 years with promoting the story, not only in Canada but in the United States, where people still say to me, "You're kidding. That trial's not over yet?" It's over today after 2 years and a month. So a lot of folks in the U.S. were outraged over this, and I think that had some effect in Canada. Are you taking any, shall we say, inspiration from this, that maybe there's saner minds are going to prevail with your situation where the government, this time the federal government, this was a provincial government case. A lot of people forget that, but this was the Ontario government going after Chris and Tamara. In your case, it's the I think you call it the Canadian Animal Cruelty Agency, otherwise known as the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. And so you're fighting them. They want to kill over 300 healthy ostriches. We all know they're healthy. The CFIA doesn't want to test them because they know they're healthy. Took them days to don their costumes, their hazmat costumes. RCMP are still walking around like there's no problem there. We all know it's a joke. They know this is a cruel joke that they're playing on the Canadian people. But are you looking at this today and saying, well, maybe this won't be a victory week for freedom? Maybe good news is on the horizon.
I really do keep feeling every day that there's always winds of change. We have hope all the time that there's good men and good men and good women in all walks of life and in their different careers. There are RCMP. There's a lot of great women and men on the Supreme Court of Canada panel, and this. I understand from discussions I've had that the Supreme Court of Canada doesn't like to get caught up in controversial political cases. However, this is a case that has garnered a lot of international interest. It's garnered a lot, captured the people from all around the world. And what we're fighting for is for science. There is science here that can better humanity. And we're fighting not just for the science and leading, technology and innovation with using our antibodies, but we are really going after the international trade rules with the World Health Organization and the guide. And if our farm even all tested all of our animals and they all tested negative, they are all still set to be killed because of our World Health Organization directives that are being passed down to us here in Canada. And that should be very alarming. But again, I think we've been going through this now for 266 days. Healthy, amazing animals. We've been going through this for about 10 months. And the longer that this is gone, it's got more people's attention, which is giving us more momentum and more strength to do what needs to be done in this situation, and that is change policy. The policy is meant to evolve. We're not asking to break the law, we're asking to update it. That's pure and simple. Science has evolved, and our policies have to evolve too. Our science needs to hold still that special place in how we how we solve these problems. We can't just pretend that all of a sudden science doesn't hold a place anymore. But there's lots of hope, I think. People are opening up their eyes. Canadians want to see change. I think we are waking up to the ideology that we don't have, we have a non-elected governing body that's been acting in Canada for the last 7 years. That governing body is really making the decisions at our federal, municipal, and provincial levels. And we need to claim some of our Canadian sovereignty back, and it should start with the policies that are destroying our farmers.
Yeah, and you would like to see the CFIA formally charged with cruelty to animals, if only because of the neglect they showed towards Spirit, the ostrich that passed away on the weekend. And I think there would be tremendous support for that, because these people seem to get away with this kind of behavior with complete impunity. And they have the nerve to lie about the fact there was a pre-existing condition, and nobody's taking this seriously. You got the goods on them. Like, I'm not going to show that the whole 5-minute video. I've shown it on the station twice now. You've got the goods on them. They clearly were not giving the electrolytes to the ostrich. They would just dump them. You've got them. Now, do you think you can that this organization is going to have to be held accountable?
I sure would hope so, David, because you have an organization that's operating with no accountability, way too much freedom, and no oversight. And then this is what happens. So we're the perfect example, the prime example to allow a display of their inabilities to follow their own protocols, follow their own policy, and that they're lying to Canadians about the animal welfare and the welfare of the animals in their care when they're obviously getting prepared to kill them. So the animals are already going to suffer enough. They're already going through traumatized moments. They're already going through fear. Why do we need to mishandle them, in lieu of their killing? They shouldn't have to suffer more just because. So I do want to see them, charged. My mom and myself were charged. They're trying to charge us. We were arrested. And you tell me how the criminals are really behind the other part of the police line, and they're hiding behind these good men and women in badges. And they're hiding like cowards in the corner of our field with animals that are not theirs. They don't know how to care for these animals, and they don't even know their job. And they're hiding in the back. They won't come to the front. They've lied to us about administering the electrolytes to Spirit, who died with dehydration and due to injuries from the RCMP, flying their drones too low. She flipped the fence. That was her compromise. So there was no compromised health. She had leg injuries due to a drone incident from the RCMP last Monday. And then she succumbed to dehydration, neglect, and animal cruelty by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, which we had to witness her dying alone, throwing her head back for her last moments of life. And that was just wrong when we're standing 300 feet away from her. And we have not been aggressive. We are not violent people. All we've ever shown them is that we just want to care for our animals in a humane way, keeping them calm, keeping them loved until whatever transpires here. We just want to look out for the welfare of our animals. So we should have been allowed in there to care for her. We wouldn't be here with the death of Spirit. She would have been cared for properly. So I do want to see these people charged, and our family does want to see these people charged, because it shouldn't be one-sided law. If we could get arrested and we were just trying to feed our animals, these animals have neglected and been inhumane with our animals, and they deserve the same thing. We have enough RCMP here, that's for sure.
Oh, no kidding. They still haven't bothered to look for the hate group or the individuals that killed your ostriches, though. So, which is very, very suspicious as far as I'm concerned. But wanted to ask you, because we were trying to get you on the show last night, obviously, when the veterinarian was on scene. Finally, a veterinarian. I like the looks of this guy. He looks like he can stand up to the CFIA, but they didn't allow him to test the spirit body for blood. Is that right?
No, and again, right. But David, again, that goes back to we're under international trade rules. These animals are caught in trade politics. So they're guilty by association of 2 animals that tested positive for avian influenza last year. So because they're guilty by association, they all have to die. And that is what we're fighting for. They can't die. This makes no sense. As long as we have migratory birds flying overhead of all of our cattle, all of our swine, all of our sheep, and us, we will never be avian influenza free. So that's just a dream. So why are we killing all these animals based off suspicion, based off if there's one positive test? Why are we killing every animal? It can't be a one-size-fits-all solution, and it has to be stopped. I understand that stamping out holds a place within a large poultry, commercial poultry industry, barns where there's 30, 40, 50,000 chickens in a barn, and these animals, you know, if they are going through some sort of virulent threat, then there should be approved methods of possibly stamping that out to stop it from flowing through into other barns. I understand that, but it can't be a one-size-fits-all solution. We are not for food consumption. We are not international trade, and we should pose no risk to international trade by being alive, just guilty by association of 2 animals that they say tested positive in December 2024.
So was the veterinarian able to assess how many birds were still there? Was he able to assess the overall health of the herd?
So he did an overall, assessment. He didn't think that he'd be allowed to go into the general public. He went into the general public with them just for a drive around because he was looking for birds or ostriches that were in a hurt pen. And every farm, I'm sure, has a corral or an area where if somebody has, a little bit of a limp, or they've got something in their hoof, or in our case, a toe, we have our hurt pen. We had one half blind one in there. We had one with a little bit of a limp, arthritis in her knee, and broken toe. Well, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency pushed all those animals into the general public. And with a pecking order and the ostriches having territory, very territorial over some of their areas, it puts the injured ones at risk. I mean, they can't fight, they can't defend themselves, and so they are at risk. Canadian Food Inspection Agency went out and pushed these animals out into the general public. So our vet was able to go do an overall look around. The one concerning part, though, is he couldn't find any of those birds. So we don't know what they've done with them. He did note that there was water, and he noted that there's food. So he said over that, he's happy to see that there was food and water. But again, in my question to him was, did you witness a feeding? And he said no, because when they're feeding, they're to feed 26 5-gallon pails of food to all of these animals, and that's what they're used to. From what our eyewitness accounts have been, and all of the images and video that pour in, they are not feeding that amount. They are dumping the food on the ground. They're not using their black dishes. These animals they're not being cared for properly. And so he asked to do an autopsy on Spirit. They denied that as well. They said that they did their own autopsy. They took tissue samples, which they are not sending out because it won't make any difference. They said if they take an autopsy, whatever the results are on that tissue, even if it's nothing, it won't change the outcome of this. So they're not going to send the tissue samples in. which is, again, why wouldn't we be looking for something else? Why wouldn't we be looking for the violent threat if we're really concerned about it? Why wouldn't we be doing an evaluation at this time to see where we're at? But he wasn't allowed to do that. He wasn't able to do a head count. No, just driving through was a very quick visit. He did treat Betsy. We have an older hen in there. She has arthritis in a knee. So he treated her. But Canadian Food Inspection Agency said that they will not maintain that treatment because they don't have anybody to do so. So we can spend millions of dollars to be here to kill these animals, but we can't come up with a sufficient Canadian Food Inspection Agency vet to keep treating her. It just goes to show they're just a kill machine. Canadian Food Inspection Agency is purely a kill machine. They don't know anything how to protect or preserve life, and they definitely don't know how to preserve our livelihoods of our farmers, and they need to be stopped. And you're right, we do call them, it's a Canadian Animal Cruelty Agency. And they need to be brought down. They need to be held accountable. Those that are here in charge need to be charged with neglect and animal cruelty, and full investigation at the very least be put into them, which they've never have. And we need to build from the ground up, a new vision, a new face, somebody and an organization, agency that Canadians can start to trust. And we have put Canadians more at risk than ever with their behavior, because farmers that should be phoning Canadian Food Inspection Agency with a concern because of their decades of mishandling farmers across Canada, farmers aren't calling them because they're just starting to do the old shoot, shovel, shut up because of their erratic behavior, their excessive freedom of operation, their no accountability, no oversight. They are the Gestapo of their league, and we have to build something from the ground up and restore that faith and trust back in Canadians so that we're back to a place of protection again.
Well, as I say every time I talk to you, I don't know how you're holding up as well as you do. We've got so many fights going on with people who are just trying to destroy what you're doing there. And
Angela Rasmussen. Have you read Angela's stuff? Oh boy, Angela.
We talked about Angela. Angela is the one that has no political axe to grind. Remember the CBC? Who was it? Hannah Mansung said, and we know, Angela, you have no political axe to grind, and all you have to do is visit her X site to find out she's a vaccine cheerleader, and she thinks David Freiheit, otherwise known as Viva Frei, is a right-wing extremist who's destroying the United States. So she's not even a Canadian.
I think she stated that I'm like a cult leader. So.
Yeah. It's like Jonestown there, right?
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, Katie, I was at the courtroom today, and it was literally standing room only. And I've never seen that courtroom so packed. There were so many people there, and of course, so many people come up to me and they say, "Oh, we love your show, and thanks for following Chris and Tamara." And I said, "Oh, what else could I do? I mean, I love these people." And they said, and we just love the fact that you're covering Katie and the ostriches. And it's like that's the second thing they say at the trial, because everybody there is watching. Not just this show, but they're watching all of the news about the ostriches. They love you as a spokeswoman for that farm. They think you're doing a fantastic job. And they're all saying now, this is Freedom Convoy 2.0. It's the same principles, the same issues here. And we're gonna keep fighting back. So you've got so many people that are supporting you. And I hope you feel that. I know you do, because what's going on here with these. There's another CBC hit piece out today. Somebody shared it with me just before I went on the air. I'll send it to you later. I'm not putting it on this broadcast. It's such, excuse my language, bullshit, unadulterated. And it's the usual crap the CBC puts out when they don't want to talk about the real issue.
Same.
Just like
Absolutely.
They want to talk about these other distractions, about some guy walking around with a jerry can. And I'm saying, that doesn't mean he's a supporter because he happens to be walking on the farm. And it's that sort of craziness. But I saw you on Redacted last night. And before I forget this, because great interview, even though the technical problems at the beginning that you have no control over, and I'm sure have something to do with the government trying to wreck
It is.
these
It's only
interviews.
their show. Yeah, it's only
And-
their show. It doesn't work.
No, it's incredible, but great interview. You raised a real
Thank you.
bombshell in your last two paragraphs on what you were talking about the CFIA again and their connection to the CO2 carbon dioxide manufacturers, and you said that they are benefiting from the production of this toxic gas that's killing birds, killing animals, and I found that just incredible. But to me, it's, well, what do you expect? Why else would they be so invested in the killing of these animals? Follow the money, as
Well,
as Jesse Ventura used to
yeah.
say.
Yeah. So then we have that Hendrix genetics turkeys in the Netherlands. And the only exemption that's been given for avian influenza was by chance a farm, but it's a turkey farm, Hendrix genetics turkey farm. And they have connections with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. They're partially funded. So, they grant their own exemptions when they think that it seems fit, that it's going to benefit their pockets. And we're seeing Canadian farmers, just like us, suffer though, because, we don't have to they don't have to follow the same rules with us. So yeah, it's been pretty alarming to go down the rabbit hole too, to see just where all these companies are affiliated and where exactly Canadian Food Inspection Agency falls in there. But I'm sure that's going to be some dark rabbit holes that are going to take a lot of flashlights to get out of. So,
Well, I really believe that the PR has been so bad, and I've talked behind the scenes with people who are equally concerned about the bad PR, and they're on the government side. And I really think you're going to have a happy conclusion to this. I'm not just saying that to make you feel better or because we had some relatively good news today. I think the tides have shifted in your favor, if they were ever not in your favor. But a lot of people in this country immediately say, well, the government wouldn't lie to us. Well, they do. They do lie to us chronically. And yes, that they have intentionally injured us. And as a former military person, I found that very hard to believe. I trusted the government to look after me, to send me overseas, look after me in combat zones, and to be there, whether it was liberal or conservative. And now I'm sorry, I just can't buy into that trust anymore after COVID. I took my red pill, going from somebody who was very trustful of government, even though I was never really enthusiastic about too much government. I thought they wouldn't hurt us, they wouldn't harm us. I think what you have demonstrated with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency is just that this is the naked face of government aggression. This is the naked face of a ravenous federal government that will do whatever the hell it thinks it can get away with. And this is why I am so invested in this, not just because I care for you and the farm and these ostriches, but I care about how the government thinks it can take my rights away, just like it thinks it can take yours away with absolutely no impunity. I think you're going to win this, Katie. I really do. I think you're going to win.
I appreciate that. It's very unnerving to think, based off suspicion, that they can come in and kill everything that you own. It is unnerving to think that they can come in and take over your property and all of a sudden seize your animals and then tell you that you can't care for them anymore, and then neglect them and then treat them inhumanely. And you're supposed to still just sit on this other side of this police tape that's a crime scene, really, because they're committing crimes behind it, and it's a crime scene, and we're watching it all unfold. Well, the farmers are the ones getting arrested, and the Canadian Food Inspection Agency is the one that's allowed to commit the crimes. So I just really do see that there is a tide that is turning. No organization should ever be given this much power. With anything that has this much excessive power, comes mishandling. And it's
Oh, sorry. I see in a comment there's something about a petition. I don't read them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
No,
there's a petition, parliamentary petition. People can sign,
yeah.
and that would be fantastic. There's a lot of petitions out there. We really need our MPs in Canada to rise up. We need as many MPs as possible to start the discussion and table this, take this to the table. And we need to change this policy. The policy, that's it. We are not setting a dangerous precedent. There's a dangerous precedent that is set when we teach our children and our grandchildren that antibodies don't exist and natural immunity doesn't exist. There is no dangerous precedent in changing a policy that has stopped working for Canadian people. And that's where we're at. This policy is not law. It's meant to evolve, and we need to just tweak it, care about it, show that it can protect Canadians, and then look at restructuring an agency, like I said, that should have different divisions. Should be agricultural division, fish and wildlife division. They shouldn't have all control of all the divisions. It doesn't make sense. And it's really hard for them, I'm sure, to keep track of. And so, I foresee a good outcome too. How can we not? I just hope that it doesn't end in the worst way possible, and that's with our animals' lives murdered because they just didn't want to make the change before the inevitable. And well, no, it's not inevitable. We're stopping it. But yeah, we're going to stop it. And these animals deserve the right to live. A miracle is going to happen. Every day I say it's Miracle Monday, it's Miracle Tuesday, and today is Miracle Tuesday. So we're going to call in more miracles. And God is good, and He's got us this far. And we're going to keep praying, and we're going to keep asking all of you to keep praying with us too, please.
Well, we are, and I encourage everybody. I know my whole church is praying for you every day, and every Sunday we say a prayer. And I heard that today from so many people at the courtroom that said, our church is praying, our group of people is praying for you, and we really, really want to see a positive outcome here. And as I say, I think you're going to see that. So, thanks for coming on again, Katie. I know you must be so exhausted. I don't know how you do it because you're up early and you're up late. And I just thank you for continuing to do these things that you need to do to get the message out. And I don't know if you have a background in PR or public affairs, but you're doing this better than most of the people I worked with as a military public affairs officer for 12 years.
That's a nice compliment.
You're doing an excellent job, because this is not easy work when you're dealing with a hostile mainstream media. I sometimes faced that in the military. There were segments of the mainstream media that hated military people. They just hated the military. And it was my job to say, here's who we really are. Here are the people who save lives. Here are the search and rescue people who are saving lives. Maybe somebody you knew, maybe they'll save one of your family members. But I think that's what you've managed to do, is you never come across as hostile to the hostile forces. You're just saying you need to understand what this farm is all about, what we're all about. And that message is working so effectively. And I heard that from people today. It's just saying it's the way she delivers the thoughts and the words and the messages that she's delivering. It's the way she does it. And people are just saying, yeah, this just doesn't make sense to kill these birds. I think they're lying to us, and it's just coming through. So keep up the good work. I'll continue to do whatever I can. And
thank you.
Let's talk again tomorrow, because I want to know if anything happens there. And I'm still saying I would love to come out. And I had to be here this week for this trial today, but I still would love to come out. And there's so many good people out there with you right now. And I'm so thankful you're not doing this alone. You've got such support from so many good people.
We are too.
And I take my hat off to the media that have been there, like Viva Fry, Rebel News. Ezra was there. Ezra is an old friend of mine, and I know Ezra is personally very, very concerned about this. He sees it as another freedom convoy, and that's why he sent Drea there to do the good work she's doing. And he's covering this as he covers everything that he's very interested in, well and comprehensively. So you're in good hands with all the folks there. And I'll continue to lend whatever support and whatever journalism expertise I have. It's at your disposal. I want you to know that,
Thank
Katie.
you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having an amazing platform and doing amazing work for the community, for all the people, bringing really great big topics to the surface. And we appreciate you here. So thank you very much for all that you do.
Well, I'm on Redacted tomorrow. I was supposed to be on today to talk about the Freedom Convoy, but Clayton said, "Oh, we're just totally overwhelmed. Let's do it tomorrow." So I will be talking anything I can get in about the farm and about the ostriches. I'll add that to the Freedom Convoy. So let's talk again tomorrow. Have a great evening.
Sounds good.
And I feel almost exhausted tonight as you probably are every day. It's been a long day for me too. So
I'll have a fantastic evening. Okay, God bless. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. That was Katie Pasitney, spokeswoman for the Universal Ostrich Farms. Just want to show you one last thing here, because we lost a couple of minutes, of course, when we were. Here's a look at how things look today. Look at that scrum. That's the scrum. Yeah, isn't that incredible? That is the scrum there, and a lot of you know Howard. He was out there holding signs up all day long. The guy's incredible. And he was there doing everything he needed to do. And I take my hat off to Howard. He's really quite something. And I think, yeah, there we go. This is Diane Magus, who is Chris Barber's lawyer. And this, as she gets through the crowd. But once again, huge amount of people here. And I want to show you one more here. We got, here's Chris, and that's my old stock shot of Chris and Tamara. That's in the summer. We used that today on the Post Millennial story, and if I can find that for you, I will. I'm sorry here. I'm literally having to put these files back in because we had that catastrophic failure of the internet, which I have no idea why that happened. But hey, seems to happen all the time when Katie's on. So let's I mean when Katie's on Redacted, they're always having problems like this. So yeah. No jail time after judge gives conditional. That's the story. I managed to get in 5 minutes, folks, after the sentencing was heard. So, and I got one more here. And this is interesting because when the judge was talking today about Chris Barber, it's quite interesting. This is the story I wrote after the last sentencing hearing. The judge didn't know at that time that Chris Barber had his bank account frozen and that thousands of other Canadians had. So today she mentioned it 3 times. I'm not kidding. She mentioned it 3 times today when she was talking about it. So very, very interesting. Thank you, everybody, for watching today. It's been a long day. I'll be back again tomorrow. And thank you for your support. And we're going to continue to fight this fight. And by the way, there was at the end of the day today when Tamara came out, you might see this on X. And she came out with at least one bodyguard, 2 other people, and she was just trying to get from the door of the courthouse to her car. And a lot of people were just literally blocking the way, and almost like they felt that she owed them a comment or she owed them a statement. And I know Tamara just wanted to get the hell out of there. And of course, when she's been threatened by people, she doesn't know if that throng of so-called supporters are really supporters, or if maybe there's an Antifa person in the midst, maybe there's some madman in the midst of that throng. She doesn't know that. They look threatening. So it was unfortunate that some people tried almost to block her access to the car, and the police had to sort of get involved. But that should never happen, because I imagine she just wanted to get out of there. It's been 2 years and a month of this trial. She's had it. Enough. Thanks for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow. God bless all of you and Godspeed.